Hello there. In today's video, I would like to talk about wampum beads as currency. Now, wampum beads have always been a valuable trade good on account of how attractive they look, how difficult they are to make, and how light and easy to carry they are. In the early 1600s, when the English colonies were just getting established, they found they didn't have enough English money for the economy to function properly. And if they did, it wouldn't really have mattered, since most trade in those days was with the native population, who had little use for English coins. So wampum beads became an accepted substitute for coinage. You can read about people paying their taxes in wampum beads. As coinage became more and more available as the colonies became established, the use of wampum as currency gradually diminished until by about 1700 it was no longer used anywhere. The main limitation of wampum as currency is that it's difficult to standardize. With metal coins, most of the value comes from the rarity of the materials, craftsmanship being a non-issue as coins are standardized by the government. With beads, most of the value comes from the time and skill that is required to manufacture them. Beads made by a master craftsman are going to be a lot nicer than beads that I can make, and the individual characteristics of the shell are going to affect the dimensions and the patterning on the beads. Because of this, it's difficult to set up an exchange rate. You can't really say that a bead is worth X, Y, and Z, in the same way you can't say that knives are worth X, Y, and Z. All that you can reasonably do in terms of standardization of value is to say that the beads that are made by Malcolm are worth X, Y, and Z, and the beads that are made by what's-his-name down the road are worth A, B, and C. Because of this, efforts by the colonial governments to set up a standardized exchange rate of wampum beads ended in failure. After the government of Massachusetts decided that it was 6 beads to a penny or whatever, the Dutch colonies realized they could capitalize on this, and they set up their own large factories and began just churning them out. The market was flooded with massive amounts of really low quality beads. So eventually the colonial governments decided that it just wasn't worth the effort trying to standardize this stuff, and they switched back to metal coins. Because of this lack of standardization and the variability of prices by region, time period, and general quality of the beads, it's difficult for the historian to say that, oh, beads were worth X, Y, and Z. I was really interested in this a couple of years back, and I went through a whole bunch of articles and price lists. It's a very confusing subject, as most of the prices that are given, such as the Massachusetts standardization of a bead price, are from after the peak in value, when they were on the decline due to mass production by the Dutch. So from what I can gather, at the peak value, a 6-foot-long string of white wampum tube beads was worth about 10 shillings. Purple beads were worth about twice as much, so 20 shillings for a 6-foot-long string of them. If you're confused by the funny British currency, don't worry, I'll convert it all into modern money at the end. Looking at surviving beads, they average about 1 centimeter long. Therefore, that works out to about 180 beads in a string. So if we break that down, 1 shilling could purchase about 18 white beads or 9 purple beads. If we break that down further, 1 white bead was worth about 3 farthings, and 1 purple bead was worth about 1.5 pence. Disc beads are a lot easier to make, and as such are a lot less valuable. They were worth less than a third as much as a tube bead. So that means that every disc bead was worth a little bit less than a farthing. So, converting all of that into modern Canadian dollars, 1 white disc bead in today's money would be worth about $3, and a purple bead would be worth about $6. 1 white tube bead in today's money would be worth about $9, and 1 purple bead would be worth about $18. This is interesting to me as it coincides with modern day prices for beads pretty well. If you go looking for traditional beads, you can expect to pay anywhere between $5 and $15 a bead. $15 a bead, even with all of the modern conveniences. That's something else, isn't it? Let's do a little bit more extrapolating. A skilled bead maker can make a bead in 15 minutes or so. Therefore, in an 8-hour working day, a skilled bead maker could make about 32 beads. Therefore, a skilled bead maker, depending on whether he was making white beads or purple beads, could produce between 2 and 4 shillings worth of value a day. In today's money, that's between $300 and $600 a day. Extrapolating further, that's the equivalent of between $1 and $200,000 a year. That's pretty darn good. Let's give a couple of price comparisons. So a good quality beaver skin at the height of the fur trade in the 1600s was worth about 4 shillings, in today's money $600. A trade gun was worth between 16 and 30 shillings depending on the quality. That's 2 to 5,000 in modern money. A trade shirt was worth about 4 shillings and a pair of pants was a little bit more than that, 600, 750 or so. So you could buy a heck of a lot of stuff with a 6-foot long string of purple beads. So there's one final thing I want to talk about, and that is the Hiawatha Belt. Now the Hiawatha Belt contains 6,574 beads. 892 of those are white, 5,682 of them are purple. A belt like this is a major commitment of time and resources. At a low estimate of 15 minutes per bead, that works out to a total of 24,652 hours just to make the beads. And if we translate the value of said beads into modern money, the raw materials for the Hiawatha Belt in today's money would be worth $110,304 Canadian. Is it any wonder these things are important treasures? Anyway, I've pretty much said my piece on this subject. I hope you found this interesting. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.